Okay.
Welcome aboard episode 278 of an Unearthly podcast, running on the 24th of October 2018. Our stop for this evening is Rosa, written by Mallory Blackman and Chris Chibnall, and starring Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor, Tosin Cole as Ryan Sinclair, Mandip Gill as Yasmin Khan, and Bradley Walsh as Graham O'Brien. Kind of hope that a companion Adrix by the end of the season, just because that's a long list to say out loud.
Yeah, and like I said a couple weeks ago, get used to it because you'll be doing it all season.
I am Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, and with me are Mad Matt Winchell,
Peter said none of us can come up with an actual poke at this episode because we don't like to.
Randy Ronson McCulloch,
Yeah, that's getting in dangerous territory.
Aaron Romeo, or no. Wow.
Wow,
habit.
Bill. Wow, Bill.
I have the people on the panel written right below that.
I know, but my brain went in a direction. Tim the Enchanter Sheridan,
Hello.
and Thomas Fireheart.
Hey.
The ingrained habit took over because yeah.
If you were here, I'd throw my bottle cap at you. Good day, sir.
All right.
You lose. You get nothing.
You get
So-
nothing. Good day,
So
sir.
at least two of us here are fighting the plague. I'm
Winning
getting over
the fight.
it. Matt's actively fighting it.
I shall not be
Right.
crushed by this. I shall crush
I'm
the
getting over
sickness.
something too.
I've won the fight.
Oh yes, and Tim's having something. So be prepared for coughing tonight, because
Yeah.
I have cough drops for that.
I'll attempt to mute my mic, but I might
As will
spontaneously
I.
hack up a lung. I don't know.
Actually, as a matter of fact, I should actually redouble my meds right now.
I'm
but
out
continue.
of coffee and my throat doesn't appreciate that.
Mm.
Well, I'm not technically out, but there's just enough for people to not be pissed off in the morning if I don't touch it tonight.
You see, this is why I don't live by coffee. I used to live by tea, but I'm trying not to anymore. Well, there's also that 2 liters a day restriction on my person,
Gotcha.
which I have broken a few times in the last year and a half, especially at restaurants. You get those ninja ladies that just come in and don't even
yeah.
ask; they just refill your glass.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't that just grind your gears when you don't want it?
I don't notice it really if I don't, but when it happens, and I'm actively drinking, I'm just like, suddenly I realize I've drunk like 5 glasses of tea,
Mhm.
and then I go home and I vibrate all night because my body has taken in that much caffeine and it's not used to it anymore. So I'm almost like Beavis. I'm just like way wired. It's like the time we had a Friday night game and I think I drank 4 Mountain Dew MDXs in one night.
Oh, Jesus.
And didn't sleep until Sunday afternoon.
Holy
Surprised you
crow.
didn't have a heart attack then.
I think that was the game that you were in, Matt. I think that was back when you were in town, or no?
I was
No,
in
I
town
think
at the time when MDX was around, yeah.
Yeah,
But being a part of that game, I'm not sure.
Hmm.
That might have been later.
might have been.
Because, yeah, I think most of the games I was a part of was was Saturday after a while. No, actually, we actually did have the Little Friday group, too.
Yeah, I think that was what I was referring to as the Little Friday group. When we were over at like Deanna's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was about when MDX came out, and I didn't realize it was over caffeinated, and I thought it was basically just a new flavor of Mountain Dew. Yeah, I made that mistake.
Yep.
Never made that mistake again, but yeah, that was a weekend I did not sleep. And then when I crashed for like 12 hours. Oh, man.
Oh, yeah, I remember the crash, actually, so yeah.
Anyway, so on the cast tonight, we've got news and birthdays, and we don't have a lot of birthdays, and we don't have a lot of news. Our Geek Talk section, on the other hand, is freaking huge.
Because a lot of things came out this weekend.
Thank you,
Yeah.
CW.
And Netflix didn't help.
I do not have a rant of the week. I try not to do those anymore. We do have a review of Shame. as Bill missed last week and actually passed out before he could finish his comments.
Shame.
And then, of course, we have our episode summary, our review, our final thoughts, and our ratings. So let's go ahead and get started with birthdays. With the 20th of October is the birthday of Anarchy Wills, who played Polly from 1966 to 67. Seeing over the transfer of the Doctor from Hartnell to Troughton, she turned 77. Also, on the 22nd of October, we have the birthday of Sir Derek Jacobi, who played Professor Yana and then the Master in 2007 in the episode, anybody?
Utopia.
Utopia is correct, sir.
Utopia.
Yeah,
He
it
turned
just all been
80.
in Utopia.
That is his only appearance, but because he played a character that spawns through, 2/3 of Doctor Who, he gets a mention.
That, and he's now
Yep.
been in a few Big Finish audios as the
Yes,
Master.
he is doing the Master, and he had done the Master previously.
Mhm.
And besides,
That's right.
it's Derek Jacobi. We should celebrate Derek Jacobi.
Yeah. There are also a few people we mentioned for birthdays because we like them. People like Brian Blessed,
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Brian
You know
Blessed,
he has
who had
small
such a
role.
large role in Doctor Who.
Right. But we mentioned him because he's Brian fucking Blessed, and Ian McKellen will be on this list, even though he played the voice of the Great Intelligence. We will mention him because he's Ian fucking McKellen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All the budget for that episode went into him.
Pretty much. Anyway.
Yep.
That is it for birthdays. So happy birthday to Anarchy and happy birthday to Jarek. And moving on to our episode news.
Yes. We have overnight ratings. The overnight ratings for Rosa are in, and according to the BBC, it had 6.39 million viewers on TV Sunday. This put Rosa at number 5 on the most viewed list that week, after Strictly Come Dancing twice, Coronation Street, and The Great British Bake Off. Remember, these numbers will most likely go up when the Barb consolidated 4-screen ratings come in next week.
So we're seeing it go down, but that's not unusual coming off a premiere.
Mm-hmm.
Still pretty high.
Mm-hmm.
Higher than what it used to be.
Oh, yeah, a lot higher than the Moffat era, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Continue.
What should we say? Reviews were overwhelmingly positive for Rosa, perhaps even more so than the last 2 weeks, given its topic. The Radio Times felt that doing a historical was bringing Doctor Who back to its roots. The Mirror and Den of Geek felt it was important to deal with such issues and didn't much towards Chibnall's promise of edutainment. The Independent praised Jodie Whittaker, while Den of Geek praised Vinette Robinson, who played Rosa Parks. Only the Telegraph viewed the episode negatively, finding it stodgy, and feeling that Chibnall and Blackman treated the event with overawe. They also disliked Segan Econola's score for it comparing the horns to the gloopier end of the West Wing.
Yeah, they just spawned all sorts of hate for this episode.
Guess we
It's
know.
almost like-
Guess we know who favored the villain.
Mm-hmm. I don't know anything about the Telegraph's politics, whether there's a right wing slant or anything, but I honestly couldn't tell. I think this is the second time, however, the Telegraph did not like Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm.
When
Lately.
everybody else did, yeah.
Yeah, they seem to be replacing the Mirror with that.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting strokes, beard.
So media bias fact check says that they're right center.
Okay,
It says
so
slightly to moderately conservative.
Yeah. Not surprising.
You would have thought
and
that this guy might be the one who's writing for the Telegraph, and this might be a little more right than they usually get.
Mm.
So, in
we'll
other
see
words,
what they
well, we'll
see
see.
what they think about next week's, because that's kind of more standard Doctor Who fare.
But hopefully, ouch.
Mm.
Hmm?
You
Well,
at
what
the
I'm
end of your sentence, you just suddenly your microphone suddenly screeched in my ear.
sorry. Well, like I said, next week should be pretty much the standard Doctor Who Monster of the Week fare, so we'll see how that goes. All right, so that's it for what we have for the current episode. Let's take a look at previous episodes.
Okay, the Barb's 4-panel consolidated ratings are in for the Ghost Monument, and it officially had 9 million viewers over the period. This actually put Doctor Who at number 4 last week after 2 episodes of Strictly Come Dancing and, surprisingly, The Great British Bake Off. It received an AI rating of 82, which is in the bottom average for Doctor Who.
Ow.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Actually, we never gave our official final scores last week either because of issues.
Because, yeah.
And by the way, I've decided what my altered.
Actually, it was
final scores on the rating sheet.
Yeah, there was final scores. It was Matt that had the issues.
Yeah, well, I had the issue, then you had the issue, and then everything just tumbled.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I just did a closer and left it at that. And I have alterations in my score for next week too, by the way, but we'll get there.
Okay, we'll get there. Because I heard scores. But what we will do is Bill has his review of Shame.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna get
and
then.
After that, we will reiterate our scores for the Ghost Monument for the record. And we'll see what that does. So we'll hold off on that until then. All right, so let's continue with future episodes, which is also Thomas.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you thought we had a synopsis bomb last week? Well, hold my beer. Cultbox has brought us not only 3 synopses from different sources, but blurbs from 2 interviews with the guest star, Shobna Gulati, and info on the side antagonist, Jack Robertson.
So in other words, if you don't want spoilers, plug your ears now, folks. Yeah. Here it goes. As soon as we get off Cultbox, you can come back again.
Okay, something's happening with the spiders in this city. The Doctor, Yaz, Graham, and Ryan find their way back to Yorkshire and Yaz's family, only to find something is stirring amidst the 8-legged arachnid population of Sheffield. Written by Chris Chibnall, directed by Sally Abrahami. God, I'm terrible with pronunciation, so.
Okay, yeah, that was by the way the BBC's press release version.
Mm-hmm. Okay, here's another from the Radio Times. The Doctor manages to bring Ryan, Yaz, and Graham safely back home to the 21st century Sheffield, only to discover a sinister mystery is unfolding on their home turf. Something strange is happening to all the spiders in the city, but before the Doctor can save Yorkshire from an 8-legged invasion, she has to make it through her first encounter with Yaz's family. And final synopsis from What's on TV magazine. After arriving back in Sheffield, the gang decides to pop round to Yasmin's for a cup of tea, only to find her neighbour Anna has gone missing and her eerily empty flat is covered in cobwebs. And similar incidents have been reported all over the city, so when Yasmin gets a distressing call from her mum, Najia, the Doctor races to the rescue. When they get there, they meet the hotel's owner, brash American businessman Jack Robertson, who gives them a frosty reception. Yet when the huge spiders block the exits, he realizes the Doctor is his only hope. Next is the interview with Shobna Gulati about her character from the aforementioned What's on TV magazine. Najia manages a brand new hotel outside Sheffield. It's only a few days until the big opening, but the place is covered in cobwebs and there are some very strange things going on. Najia is thrilled to be on an adventure with her daughter. She's so bubbly and asks a lot of questions as they explore the corridors, which Yasmin finds very annoying. Additional info from another interview from the Metro. I'm playing Yaz's mum, so I'm part of the family she mentioned in episode 2. Yaz's mum is a hard worker. She's got 2 daughters, and Yaz is still living at home, but has her own career and everything going on. So she's in that transitional stage with her daughter, thinking, is her daughter ever going to move out? And if she does move out, if it will be with someone. She has all those concerns, like many women of her age, with daughters and sons in their 20s. She can't keep tabs on her, but she doesn't really want to keep tabs on her. She just wants to know she's all right. Chris Noth and I have scenes together. He is brilliant. His character in this is excellent. Speaking of which, here's the info on Chris Noth's character, Jack Robertson from TV and Satellite Week. His business practices come under suspicion when giant spiders overrun his brand new luxury hotel on the outskirts of Sheffield, but he's more worried about the bad publicity ahead of his run for President of the United States in the 2020 elections. Unfortunately, he and the Doctor don't see eye to eye, especially as Robertson believes in shooting first and asking questions later.
So
I guess
basically,
That
so
sounds like a
basically,
fairly generic villain.
he sounds like a Trump XP, really.
Yeah. Okay, the guest cast list is as follows. Chris Noth as Jack Robertson, American millionaire presidential candidate. Yep, basically.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Shona Galati as Najia Khan, Yaz's mother. Tanya Fear as Dr. Jade McIntyre, zoologist. Ravin J. Ganatra as Hakim Khan, likely Yaz's father. Bhavnisha Palmer as Sonia Khan, likely as a sister. Jale Alp as Frankie Ellish. And we have some photos and stuff to discuss, apparently.
Yeah, most of them are just the characters. You can see the first picture is Chris Noth as Jack Robertson.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, great.
Oh, yeah, shadowy rich guy. Mm-hmm.
Then you've got Yali Alp as Frankie Ellish. Again, not really much we can say about that. Right. And then we have the Khan family at home there, apparently.
Okay.
And then the above with the Doctor.
And the above picture of the Doctor and the spider in the tank.
I'm getting that the side story on this is going to be very much akin to like Aliens of London, where the Doctor actually has to deal with the domestic.
Also, before I realized the family was there, my first thought was, oh, we've done present, future, past. Is our next episode going to be present? It sounds like it is.
Yeah, it sounds like Chibnall is using the Russell T Davies formula.
Mm-hmm. Which, to be fair, I think was also the first Doctor formula, if I remember. Well, they didn't do present so much.
Way down here in the images, you'll find a spoiler for a prop, apparently.
Yeah, don't go there, Matt. I was going to take these in order.
Well, we're taking a while, so I'm scanning through.
Matt doesn't believe in order.
Yeah, Matt doesn't believe in order, and Matt forgets that, we're on camera.
Matt is chaotic neutral.
What do you mean I'm not taking them in order? I am literally taking them in order, slowly scrolling down.
So the next two is Yaz and her mother. Again, looks like they're exploring a lot of spider webs.
Spider-Man went crazy.
Yeah. Man, his web shooters just must have malfunctioned all over the place. Then we've got a close-up of the Doctor. And then another one of Chris Noth as Jack Robertson looking up and... Yeah. You get it. He's going to be one of those side antagonist characters, the kind that, originally just do everything in their power to stand in the Doctor's way.
Yeah, he doesn't look cartoony enough to be a Trump XP, but he looks very much like that criminal. I mean, that common, like, powerful criminal who's just focused on me the entire episode.
Not even just a powerful criminal, like that government or
that's what I mean to say.
Political asshole that just wants to sit in the way. Yeah.
I mean, like white collar criminal, like embezzler type. I want everything for me.
Yeah. So basically a Pertwee.
What about my image? Yeah.
Yep. And now we get down here, and what's this? The Doctor with a fanny pack?
Yeah, not sure what's up with that. I thought she got the coat for pockets.
Yeah, I know. She prefers coat pockets. Why is she wearing a fanny pack? It makes no sense. Hopefully the plot will.
I don't think you can call it a fanny pack in Britain.
They call it
a bum
bag.
Different connotations. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
And then there's a scene of them outside the TARDIS, and has the TARDIS plaque changed again?
It's the same as it was when we first got the TARDIS, so
Okay.
no, it hasn't
Okay.
changed since last episode.
The lettering looked different.
I didn't get to see the lettering that closely, so no, this looks right.
Hmm.
Please telephone free for use of public.
Well, it always says the same thing. It's said the same thing since 1963.
Well, it's also had some other different designs, but yeah, it's still the black with white text on it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, the font looked different to me. I don't know.
I think it's just the angle.
Might be. It might be
Probably.
the angle. Because we got the reverse angle from the door on the other one, and it looked.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then some pictures of Graham.
He's
Looks
not
like
complaining about food. He looks.
Yeah, he's
fairly
content to be back home.
Mm.
It makes me wonder how the hell he signs back on. And we know he signs back on because we've seen him in trailers for episodes we haven't seen yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, looks like she's like ear to the ground or ear to a wall. More webbing. The monster eye view camera, which, we should expect with the monster of the week. Jack Robertson looks in trouble. And yes, at the bottom, all of my nightmares. I will have nightmares about this thing.
Looks like a relatively well done Halloween prop. I should put it in the front yard and scare away half the kids.
Man, could you imagine if they had those for Planet of the Spiders?
It would have been more effective.
Ah. Eesh. Anyway, so that's the end of that one.
You can
And
unplug your ears now, Vixie.
Believe it or not, there's no other category news until we hit Big Finish.
Candy Jar Books is on break.
Apparently, I've got no news from Candy Jar Books. I double-checked everything. Maybe they're too busy watching the episodes.
Oh, yes. Pop some popcorn.
Anyway, Bill, the Big Finish news is yours.
Oh,
Hello?
right. Sorry, I was trying to respond to a message at the same time.
Bad Bill.
All right. So God is coming to Torchwood in the next series of audio adventures, part 1 of which is out today. 4 new episodes with Jack Harkness and Torchwood irregulars, including Future Pain by James Goss, The Man Who Destroyed Torchwood by Guy Adams, See No Evil by John Dorney, and Night Watch by Tim Foley. Torchwood God Among Us 1 is available now from Big Finish for £25 download, 28 CD. God Among Us 2 will be released in February 2019, and God Among Us 3, the final disc of the season, will come out in June 2019. These can still be pre-ordered individually for the same price. Also, Tim Treloar and Katie Manning return to another series of Third Doctor adventures, this time aided by impressionist John Culshaw, who will be doing the voice of Brigadier Alistair Gordon Lethbridge Stewart. Seems the voicing Chameleon in the main range was good enough that he's on staff now.
Sweet.
We don't have much more info yet, only that it's due out in May 2019.
And yes, this does mean we do know that on that grim, dark day that we lose Tom Baker,
We have the man who can copy him.
Big Finish will be able to continue making the Fourth Doctor adventures.
We have
Right.
the voice. We have the technology.
And they're probably in negotiations with Tom about it now.
Possibly.
Yeah, it also might be that Tom is prepping to out and out retire.
Mm-hmm.
Just flat out, not doing voices, not doing anything.
Tom,
Just
is it alright if we
enjoy-
get this guy? Tom, you've done some work with him before. Tom. Oh, him, yes. He's the one that came up with the ball bearings joke.
But, it could just be that he wants to, enjoy his last few years and, with not having any kind of schedule. I don't know this for certain. This is not news. This is just speculation. But so it could be that they've asked Coleshaw to come in for that eventuality where he has to wind up be the voice of the Fourth Doctor. And if you've ever heard John Coleshaw, I think you might find if you YouTube Dead Ringers.
YouTube Dead Ringers, Fourth Doctor, you will find him. It's not even a question.
Yeah, he does a very, very, very good Fourth Doctor voice.
Here, take this pillow. Now poke that Cyberman. Like this. Here. That's it. Keep going. You've just saved the universe.
Normally this would be the end of our news, but we have a couple of interest stories this time. First is a bit of unusual news. NASA must be a bit bored recently with not having to coordinate space shuttle launches and landings. It seems some of their workers took the gamma ray images from the Fermi satellite, pictures of the night sky, and made a whole series of modern constellations. Included amongst such giants as the Incredible Hulk, Godzilla, and the Starship Enterprise is one very familiar blue box.
Hooray.
Yes, the TARDIS is now one of the 11 unofficial constellations now visible from the Fermi website.
Actually, is that the link here? Because I need to see these constellations yet.
No, hang on. I'll give you the link just a moment. I had it. I didn't think we would be linking it, so I
haven't seen these yet. I mean, I've heard about one or two of them, but I've not actually gotten to see any of them yet.
All right, hang on. Let me pop this up.
So it's just been like.
I feel like Ultimate Showdown of Ultimate Destiny should be playing in the background of this piece.
I can find it. I'm pretty sure. I bet you it's still out there.
And then we'll get flagged and have it taken down.
Will we?
Because
that's an independent song, I thought.
Sony will still find a way to flag it.
Oh, really? I suppose. Leave it to Sony.
Anyway, the link is now in the main channel.
Loading.
And of course, gamma ray constellations. That's why it's Godzilla and the Hulk.
Yep.
Oh, and there's a giant spider.
Is that Mjolnir? Yep.
Looks like Mjolnir. I think that's supposed to be Hulk over there. Oh, there's Godzilla. Oh, yes, and look at that elongated box.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but that's the one that it loaded right up to when I was right there.
Yeah.
I love the fact that the Fermi satellite actually made a constellation of itself.
I love the fact that the TARDIS is right above Godzilla's back.
There's a giant spider for next week's episode.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not.
Oh, is that something else? Where's the TARDIS then?
That's Schrodinger's cat. The TARDIS is about 180 degrees from Godzilla.
Oh, okay. I think I see it.
It's right
got a little bit of a triangular top to it.
Yeah. Yeah. It looks like the Hulk's about ready to punch it.
Or it's trying to avoid him. Yeah. Okay.
And it looks kind of like the Hulk is standing on the Eiffel Tower or sliding down the Eiffel Tower to punch the TARDIS.
Yeah, that's why I thought it was King Kong for a second.
That would have worked too, except they wanted the whole radiation.
Ronald McDonald? What is this thing down to the very bottom here? Looks like a person with wild hair.
Einstein, apparently.
Oh, yeah. Einstein, okay.
Yeah, if you click on it, you get what the constellation is.
Oh.
What is... Oh, a pirate ship.
It's the Vasa.
Or maybe not a pirate. I don't know if it's pirates, but it's a ship.
No, it looked like it was a British ship. And
where's the R101? We need the R101.
And then, of course, right there in the middle of the red belt is the Starship Enterprise. Kind of looks like it just hit the galactic barrier.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's the 2001 obelisk.
Where do you see the 2001 obelisk?
It's right at the tail of Godzilla.
Obelisk, right near the Enterprise.
That is not the 2001 obelisk.
Oh, it just says obelisk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just says obelisk.
You know, I saw that. I'm like, that looks more like the Washington Monument.
Kinda.
I didn't know of any other famous obelisk.
Well,
So.
the thing is, no, the 2001
There's a lot of
obelisk
Egyptian ones and
is
such.
a big square rectangle that's 1 by 3 by 9.
I
That is
couldn't
not
remember
1
if
by
the
3 by
movie
9.
changed it or not. I remembered the book said that, but I couldn't remember what the movie one looked like.
Also did the 1 by 3 by 9 bit.
Ah.
Because there's a mathematical reason behind it.
Alrighty.
All right. So yes, there you go. There's the unofficial constellations, including the TARDIS.
Because NASA's bored and at least they come up with fun things to do.
And the next one's not so much news as a note. Over the past few years, Doctor Who has received some criticism by fans for the lack of diversity on its writing cast. Last season, we saw some women join the writing team, and the show took a historic step with this episode. Mallory Blackman is the first person of color to write an episode for Doctor Who, fittingly writing an episode about a woman of color breaking historic boundaries. All right, so that does our news section. We're going to wrap that up
Pretty
and
much right
move
there.
on to the review of Shame.
Shame.
Are we, or do we have stuff we do before that?
No, we have nothing to do before that.
Yep.
Bill is going to give his insights on the review of Shame, and following Bill's statement and ratings, we will give our ratings. We will reiterate our ratings for the review of Shame.
All right. So what I liked was the whole exploring an alien
Okay.
planet and not just being in one city or space station, which we normally get. What I disliked was the guy running the race, partially because he looked like a human-sized Sylvester McCoy in all the screenshots, and it really weirded me out. Also, this is kind of a scene, but it ties into that. Just that I really wish the ending involved the doctor bringing his new friends to like yell at the guy and force him to give them the earnings instead of him just being a pushover when it seemed like he was really going to be tough. My favorite scene was reuniting with the TARDIS because that's just a classic scene. Of course,
Yeah, I think that was mine too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My least favorite scene, they're running from a crashing starship and they couldn't think run to the side. They just run forward and try to outrun it.
That's true.
I'd actually thought of that while I was watching it, but I didn't get to that on the podcast. Shame.
Final thoughts. It was a fun episode. It lagged a bit at times, but nothing really beyond nitpicky. Looks like we're setting up a season arc, and we'll see if that will be great or terrible. The big bads seem a little bit like they might be Chibnall's version of the Santarans or Daleks, so we'll see how well that turns out. And I think I'm going with a 4.5 out of 5.
4.5. Okay. A few of us gave it 5s last week, but we were very, very reluctantly giving it 5s because we couldn't find anything technically wrong with the episode.
For me, a 5, it needs that like extra kick that really like gives you that feeling of it being epic, and it lacked that kick for me.
It didn't lack that kick for me, but it didn't. Or maybe it did. The problem was I couldn't quantify why it lacked that kick.
If I may, I have a reason for my adjustment of my score.
Okay.
My reason is that while a lot of the stuff in the episode was actually really well done, there are still lots of little flaws that held it back.
Yeah,
we had interesting monsters, but some of them kind of looked like atypical things from other places.
When we got Discord back, which was like right after we canceled.
Yeah, we started to why we were having issues. Well, there's the issues with that one of the monsters, the robot snipers, looked like they were right out of a video game. The cloth dangly things are like, oh, okay, those are easily dispatchable in multiple ways. Our planet's supposed to be deadly, but it doesn't seem to be that deadly. Our main characters aren't sweating that bad, and somehow, somewhere, they're getting water, even though they never show us how. so it's not that
Yeah,
deadly.
for
There's just a
a
lot of little nitpicky issues if you look closely enough that it just starts to actually fall apart, and that 5 starts to diminish pretty quickly.
yeah, I'm actually going to remove mine as well.
They're filtering their own sweat.
If they had suits to do that,
Yeah,
I would allow that.
Mhm.
They don't.
don't. Nope.
Because the doctor, I mean, the 2 pilots look like they might have suits designed to do that.
Or at least some sort of like neck hanging things that they have if you do that. Yeah,
But the doctor and crew are running around in their plain clothes,
they're street clothes.
and-
Yeah.
and never do they seem to be exceedingly thirsty, and never do we
Yeah,
see
that's
anybody else
true.
giving them water.
I was gonna say,
And
I read once in a survival book how to extract water from your own urine using a leaf, but they didn't even try something like that.
yeah, and how is there vegetation if all the water is full of these toxic nanite things that destroy life?
Answer: it's not all toxic. Woohoo!
Yeah, it's they're for a planet that's supposed to be the most hostile environment imaginable. It's not that hostile.
True.
Nope.
That's finally what knocked it down to 4.5 for me. Is they really try to sell you on this being the most hostile environment imaginable when it's basically looks like.
I mean, it has a hostile attitude, but
Yeah. Yeah, my score would have been a little bit lower than 4.5, but I think it's high enough that it still rounds up to that. So 4.5 is for me as well.
For me, it's still mine winds up above a 4.5, but not above a 4.75, so it goes down. Tim, last time you said your score was 5. Does that hold?
Yeah, but I'm me.
Yeah.
And Thomas, I
it
believe last
seems
time
to.
you stated your score was a 4.5. Does that hold?
Yeah, that's the same for me.
Okay.
So 2 of us lowered from 5 to 4.5 on retrospection, since apparently our scores did not get recorded last time.
We managed to start giving our scores, but it was canceled before final overall.
So that will make the new revised average with Bill's score added in, which I'm still going to mark you red for not being there last week.
okay.
For an average of 4.6.
That's a little bit more fair.
That sounds a little better. Let me go to the rankings, because that will change its ranking. 4.6 will put it still pretty well. It'll put it around, looks to be around number 24 out of 265 rated. It is on par with The Bells of St. John, The Return of Dr. Mysterio,
Okay.
The Magician's Apprentice, which is familiar,
Mm-hmm.
The Invasion of Time, The Talons of Wang Chiang, and The Seeds of Death.
Sure.
It is better than Utopia, Here Comes the Drums, Last of the Time Lords, Zygon Invasion, Zygon Inversion, New Earth, Enlightenment, World is Not Enough, World Enough in Time, The Doctor Falls, Thin Ice, The Rebos Operation, yada yada, and is not as good as The Green Death, The Stolen Earth, Journey's End, and Day of the Doctor. I can live with that.
Yeah, that feels a little more correct.
Yeah.
Last
Still
time
pretty
it was
high.
coming in at 4.9, which was putting it.
At number 7, yeah.
Yeah, that was putting it at number 7,
And
it's
we're just
not-
like, oh, that feels wrong.
yeah. I'm sitting here going, it's better than School Reunion. No.
No. No. No. No. No. No. No. No. No. No. No. No. No. What is this madness? No.
No. You don't get that. You don't get that.
Nah.
Yeah, no. But yeah, this new one I can live with. This I'm happy now.
Yeah, this is a little bit better. This is definitely a correction.
All right, so now we're going to fill up. You're not going to have a lot of time, Bill, but we've got about 15 minutes, 20.
Okay.
And we're going to start first with our television section, and Bill
Yep.
is going to talk about the CW.
Yes, so the CW came out with all of its shows within the past few weeks. Their website is kind of screwy, so there are a few I thought weren't back yet, but actually are. As a result, I haven't actually gotten to watch the latest episode or episodes of Black Lightning.
I only have seen one episode of that thus far. It was very confusing because I think it was the last episode.
I can see that. So there was Arrow. I was expecting Arrow to start with a big reset button, like they do most seasons, and I was kind of glad they didn't. Which I had kind of heard that they might not, because apparently there's a comic arc set in prison. Don't know how close they're following that. Um, it hasn't really hooked me yet for this season, but it's set up at least in some interesting conflict. So I'll keep watching, of course. Flash has had a bit more chance to grow. That introduced a major new character and more timeline shenanigans,
Of course.
which we have no idea how that's going to play out. But the character chemistry seems to be pretty good.
I have
I'm
an idea
enjoying
of
it.
what that's going to do because I think I've seen some spoilers elsewhere.
Supergirl has not yet played off on the cliffhanger at the end of the previous season. It has some other stuff going on, which it's definitely following along with. Supergirl has traditionally done a lot of stuff mirroring real world politics, and this is no exception. It's I would probably say mirroring 2016 or 2017 in terms of the nationalist movements growing at that time. Um, I'm sure some people will disagree with how they do it, and I think they're not going to do it flawlessly, but I think they'll do it as competently as they've done everything else. Legends of Tomorrow has had one episode.
Now, I haven't watched any of these in a while due to losing cable and thus losing the ability to record it. Last I saw of these episodes, Legends of Tomorrow was the one that was the most fun. Arrow was Arrow.
That's right, because Flash had like a really dark couple of seasons. Flash is, I'd say, as of right now, Flash is probably the most fun, just because, I mean, there's darkness to it, but not as dark as the last two seasons, at least not yet. Legends of Tomorrow has had one episode, which is all right, but not like, up there like Galaxy or Guardians of the Galaxy level, like entertaining.
Like last season was.
Right.
With them screwing up until they get it right.
Part of that is because their new team member is John Constantine, who is more of a he's more of a gruff attitude guy than a fun guy.
He's had a dark history, so yeah. I could see that happening.
Is it played by the same guy that did the Constantine TV show?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, I believe they were promising him that rollback, which is good.
A different network, they've rolled that into the canon of the Arrowverse.
Woohoo!
So yeah, that's kind of kicked off a new arc. The last episode wasn't like mind blowing or anything. I could describe it in 3 words that would make people very interested, but I feel like any of those words would be a spoiler, so I won't.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, it's all right. It hasn't really like impressed me just yet, though.
Okay. And then you saw Daredevil season 3.
I've seen the first few episodes. I have not watched the whole thing because it's, we just came off midterms. So I don't have time for a 10-episode binge session. But it's really good so far. I'm liking it a lot more than I did Daredevil season 2, which is a good thing considering Iron Fist season 3 and Luke Cage season 3 were both canceled.
Yeah, I know.
The first due to poor ratings due to Iron Fist season 1 sucking, and the latter due to creative differences because of studio interference, from what I hear.
I actually hear it might be the reason for both of them.
Yes.
Okay.
My assumption too on that.
I just hope it means we're getting a Daughters of the Dragon show, because that would make up for it.
Probably not.
No, my assumption, and I assume Randy's assumption too, is that it might be moving to the next Disney platform.
That's yeah. But I mean,
I think what's happening is Marvel is concluding all of its contracts with Netflix.
If they have the option to do so, they will definitely.
So that anything that they launch from here on out, and they can move any kind of Marvel studio stuff to the Disney's standalone. So they canceled Iron Fist and Luke Cage because those contracts were due. They were still obligated to give us Daredevil, they're obligated to give us Punisher, and they're obligated to give us Jessica Jones.
Okay.
But I'm thinking we will hear that each one of those is canceled once those contracts come up.
Once those contracts and those particular seasons are done, yeah.
As for the episodes of Daredevil I've seen thus far, I would say it's on par with Daredevil Season 1, which is still close to, if not the pinnacle of the Netflix MCU. So I'm enjoying it, and will definitely finish out the season as soon as I can.
I actually heard that Luke Cage and that were among 2 of like 10 or so shows that were cancelled recently on Netflix.
Not from the MCU, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I also, speaking of comic book shows, I also realized that Wyonna Earp was on Xfinity's streaming service, which is much better than Sci-Fi's crappy website. So I streamed all of season 3, and I quite enjoyed it. They played around with mythology a bit and introduced some weirdness that I don't know if the effects department was ready to pull off seriously. But they definitely, followed up on a big bad that was relevant to the entire previous seasons. They set up an arc for season 4, and I would say it's as good as season 2. So if you've been enjoying Wyonna Earp, season 3 is more of the same.
All right. So, going from TV to movies, Matt, Aaron, and myself went this weekend on the premiere weekend, crazy enough, of the new movie Halloween, which is
I want to hear about this.
40-year...
40 years later, yeah.
40 years later, continuation off the first movie.
Halloween H4O?
Basically.
Now, before we do this review, I should state that while Halloween is Matt's jam, he loves these kind of movies.
All of my stuff.
And his peanut butter.
I can't believe it's been 20 years since H2O.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
20 years since Busta Rhymes.
Busta Rhymes is a little after that, but yeah.
Wait, was that not Busta Rhymes in H2O?
No, that was Resurrection, dude.
Oh, no, Resurrection was the
Resurrection, dang it,
Sorry,
Bill, he was in the bad movie.
I switched their 2 names. My bad.
Basically, H2O started, from what I hear, with a good standing of what would have been a new continuation, and then Resurrection just ran it into the ground.
As hard as you could.
Pretty much.
Like a lead balloon.
So I'm going to let Matt go first with his opinion.
First of all, I'd like to also hear what your opinion is of the original Halloween, since you also got to see that for the first time ever, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, I'd seen Halloween 3 before, but I'd never seen any of the others.
Of all the Halloweens.
Of all the Halloweens, yeah.
The one that's not really part of the series.
Because I caught it in a TV movie.
And
it was probably a TV movie because it was low enough that they could afford it.
Probably.
Because nobody that's the only Halloween movie I actually have not seen. No, that and the second remake.
And I think I only caught the tail half of that movie anyway.
That's probably the better half, even though it's kooky.
I remember watching that going, what the hell am I watching?
Yeah. You wonder that even after watching the first half.
That's the appropriate reaction from the clips I've seen.
So I watched the first movie, and like I said, slashers are not my thing. And Halloween is definitely a slasher movie, albeit it is not as bizarre a slasher movie as, say, Nightmare on Elm Street, which I've seen a couple of and are not my bag at all. The first movie, considering everything, it is very much a John Carpenter movie. You can tell by the music stings, and I'm a bit of a John Carpenter fan. I love Escape from New York, Escape from L.A. I love a couple of the other movies he's done.
I love The Thing.
The Thing is awesome. Yes.
Speaking of which, I think someone on our panel recently watched The Thing for the first time.
Yeah, that was me. I brought that up like last week.
Yeah, I was going to say that was last week for you. Yeah.
But you can definitely tell that it's a John Carpenter movie. It has a lot of the John Carpenter stings. The music is definitely Deborah Hill, so you feel that Deborah Hill, twang when there's a jump scare. It tends to be both musical as well as in your face. Other than that, I thought it was very, very much a decent movie.
John Carpenter and Deborah Hill were always masters of making the how you call it, the taking you on a ride when they're surprising you with shit.
I don't think it was, out of the ordinary by any standards, but I thought it was, very much decent I guess you would call it a popcorn film,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of what Carpenter's good for.
Yeah, it's usually what it's good for. And this one particularly surprised people because actually it's mundane now, but imagine like 30, 40 years ago now what a movie like that would have done.
Especially because slashers weren't really much of a thing when
They-
The only
had-
other
they had-
notable
they had
one
started-
before then was
They had
Texas
started,
Chainsaw.
but they weren't really popularized.
Yeah, Texas Chainsaw
Yeah.
Massacre had been like 5 years.
There were a
previous.
few. Yeah, you had your Black Christmases and stuff like that,
Mhm.
but
But they weren't
big.
a regular thing. Not until Halloween came
Yeah.
down like a ton of bricks.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Halloween is arguably what started movies like Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the codifier.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the grandfather because I guess that goes to Texas Chainsaw, but
Actually,
it's not the
Psycho.
They
Psycho's
say
technically the
grandfather
grandfather.
is-
Yeah.
we argued this in the car on the way to the theater. Psycho doesn't count
As a
because there's
grandfather.
not as much of a body count.
Yeah, it's not enough by count to count as a slasher, to be honest. Actually, yeah.
Because
There's,
most
if
of the
anything
peop-
that
most
you
of the
needed
people,
to, it's a grandfather of
does-
horror before it became known as
Um,
slashers, but it's not a slasher yet.
yeah,
Would Peeping Tom count as a grandfather?
I don't know.
I haven't heard of that one.
So
I
I
think
don't
I've
know.
seen that one.
Oh, you should look that up.
I think I've heard of it, and I heard
Yeah.
it referred to as a slasher, though.
Because the thing about slashers is you're basically going, you see the serial killer as they go on their spree.
Mm-hmm.
You get to see them kill pretty much everybody they kill.
Yeah.
The thing about Psycho is the fact that you see one person die, and then it's assumed that he's killed many others.
It's assumed they
he
killed many
never-
others, and you only see 2 deaths, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 2
And
altogether.
of course, the
Yeah.
great grandfather what would be the first slasher-esque monster? The Mummy movies in the black and white era.
Those don't really count.
Yeah.
Because
I think I've seen people.
those kind of movies are considered classic horror.
Yeah, they're
because
still they're still part of the ghostly monster stuff from Universal.
Yeah. Vampires,
Um,
werewolves, and mummies all count as classic horror.
Mm.
But yeah, and the thing about Halloween that makes it different is the fact that the killer is basically just a guy. He's not, this creature brought back from the pit of hell.
Yep.
He's not,
Not
some
yet.
superly naturally powered being or anything that you're
Not
aware
yet.
of.
Depending on which part of the franchise you were paying attention to, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't watch part 6 if you want to keep that idea.
Well, mind you, I'm saying this as far as watching the original Halloween,
Yeah.
ignoring anything else. He's just a guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's a guy who has this look of evil
The
about
black
him, and then he
skies.
picks out this really disturbingly pale mask.
Mm.
He spray paints William
Na-
Shatner's face
and
white.
Now I'm imagining an awkward remake of Skater Boy about Michael Myers and Laurie Strode.
So
Okay.
anyway, Matt. Now your thoughts on the
So-
new one.
Yeah, my thoughts on the new one. So again, I've watched all of the franchise. There are parts I love, parts I hate. I definitely think this new one is a part I love. This is technically what HBO did for us 20 years ago, but hopefully, crossing your fingers, if they would decide to make more sequels, Universal, make them good this time. Oh my God.
Please don't.
If you, I'm not saying that they shouldn't. I'm saying if they must, don't
Yeah.
screw this up. You've
Mm.
got your good footing again. Don't mess it up. This is a really solid entry. Nick Castle owns Michael Myers all over again. Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode steps into that role almost effortlessly and does an amazing job with it.
Oh, no,
th-
she's gone a bit Sarah Connor in this one.
She does kind of bit Sarah Connor, but that's to be expected because how long has she lingered with this? And it's messed with her for how many
40
years?
Mhm.
40 years, yeah. We
I
get
mean,
to
she-
see
she's
her,
not-
what happened.
She's not so Sarah Connor that they've put her in an institution, but
They
yeah.
damn near almost did, I
Which
think,
they
at one
did
point.
in Resurrection.
But we get to see what the effect has had on her family over the last 40 years since she survived being attacked. We get to see We get to actually have some characters that aren't completely intolerable like they were in the Rob Zombie remakes. Thank God.
Yeah, there's this wonderful scene with two cops, and one of the cops is trying to get his partner to eat something other than a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And the dialogue is absolutely wonderfully perfect. It's right what you'd expect.
It's literally just giving these cops a moment to be these little characters before we continue on with them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a hit of the break, just long enough for us to get to know these characters, and then let's throw in all of a sudden a cop car starts in the middle of the road in front of them. What did they do?
I'm guessing Loomis died off screen in between movies.
Yes, supposedly Loomis died off
Would have
screen
had to, yeah.
years ago.
Yeah, because they can't get Donald Pleasance back because he's dead.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a new doctor that's monitoring Michael,
to be honest,
and there's
4
apparently
years later,
a
they
study
could
underneath Loomis.
They could pretty much grab any 80 or 90-year-old actor.
No, they
and,
couldn't.
Like, you're what Loomis looks like now.
No, they couldn't.
No.
couldn't.
You
They
can't
Donald
fake
Pleasance
Donald
could be
Pleasance that
I mean,
easily.
like, yeah, you'd even argue that. I mean, like, even in reality, I don't think Loomis would have survived this long, regardless.
Yeah, that's also very
So,
true.
If they did,
If he did, he'd be very tired and he'd be walking around with a walker.
yeah, and
Yeah.
the only way they'd be able to do it is to do what they did with Tarkin in Rogue One.
In Rogue One, yeah, they'd be doing that again. And do you really want the creepy valley?
Yeah, do you want to continue that trend?
No, I don't.
So let's not.
Yeah. They just said he died. They had basically his
understudy.
His student that studied under him take over and was just as obsessed.
Even more obsessed.
Yeah.
But we won't go into spoilers on that. But there's a lot of really good stuff. A lot of little nods to things. Like there's a nod to the hammer from Halloween 2. There's a nod to the shot off the balcony scene from Halloween 1. You actually get to see all three of the Halloween 3 masks in the scene where Laurie's yelling at everyone to get inside.
Okay.
Yeah, there's just lots of little references. If you watch the universe and paid enough attention, you get them. It's not going to be in your face, look at this reference. It's just going to be like enough that you're like, I know where this is going. And you'll enjoy the heck out of it. Randy, your opinions.
Okay. So while I'm not looking at this from the total fanboy's perspective, Matt is, it's a good movie. I enjoyed it. There are some flaws with it. There's definitely a few flaws with it. One of which is a problem I have with 90% of slasher movies, and the fact is that people act stupid. Those same two cops I was talking about a couple of minutes ago, the cop car shows up. They sit there and try to raise him on the radio for about 5 goddamn minutes.
Well, shit is obviously going down behind that vehicle.
Yes. And then they decide to go in, get out and investigate. They do not come out weapons hot, which, if I was a cop, I would have. And instead, they basically just get their fool asses killed. And the biggest, most stupidest thing they do, you have a serial killer that twice before has killed shit on Halloween. And you decide to move him on a prison bus on October 30th. Whose the fuck stupid idea was this?
I was gonna say, isn't it similar to how he gets out in the first movie anyway?
Yes, it is.
Or is it that? Yeah.
He wasn't actually getting moved. He would just happen to pull something that managed to leave all of the crazies out in the yard, and then he escaped.
Ah, yeah. Oh, that's it. I'm thinking of the Rob Zombie one.
You're thinking of the Rob Zombie one, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's basically
the Rob Zombie one wasn't even that either. It was the security guards were doing stupid shit.
Yeah.
You're thinking of part 4.
It depends on the cut.
You're thinking of part 4 where we're going to move him as presuming him to still be an unconscious burn victim, and then he kills the paramedics and escapes the ambulance. Yeah, that was part 4.
Yeah, it's but
Fools.
you don't you
We've
know
just
you do
spoiled like every movie in the franchise.
pretty much, but they've all been out for like 30 years, so nobody gives a shit on those. But no, I mean this is the premise to what happened is he gets out on the day before Halloween and kills people. That's every fucking Halloween movie ever.
Or he wakes up. Either
But
way.
the fact that they made this decision to do this is, I'm sorry, you have a serial killer that tends to kill on a specific day. You wait till the day after Halloween to move his ass.
You know what we should
Yeah.
really do, guys? Let's move him the 4th of freaking July.
Move him in fucking March. Don't take him anywhere near Halloween. Just but no, it's like uber bad decisions by a lot of people that that even without the benefit of hindsight, is still a bad decision. And that kind of problem, it bothers me in the writing because it's so contrived. And again, this is my one problem with every slasher movie ever. They make fun of it in commercials,
So you don't think real people are that stupid?
I think there's a modicum of common sense in some of them that with one of them points out that there's usually at least one sane man to point out these issues. I know, because that person's usually me.
As long as it's not happening in the Senate building, I guess.
I don't count politics. Most of them have, but I think lobotomies are like essential for when you're elected to office. I don't deal with that.
I think they have separate heads, but they keep leaving the second head at home.
Mm-hmm. It takes a special kind of crazy to run for politics, and let's not talk about that.
Yeah, that's not.
But no, it's just basic common sense decisions that usually there's fucking procedures you go back on that were completely and utterly ignored in this kind of shit that just bothered me. So for me, but that's more a problem with the genre than with this movie in particular. If you're fond of slasher movies, you'll like this movie. It is
if your stretch of disbelief can be stretched at least that far that someone would stoop it up like this, then you're fine.
Matt, are you up to giving a list, best to worst?
Ooh, I could try to.
Movies? Okay.
Definitely my top 3 right now would be the original Halloween, H2O, and Halloween 2018.
Up there, okay.
Yeah, it's already up there for me right now. I want to say just below that would be Halloween. Would be Halloween 2. Probably followed very closely by 4 and 5 because those are just so tied together. 3 is stupid fun. 6 is just stupid, and Resurrection's terrible.
Rob Zombie, you don't even mention.
Rob Zombie, it's its own little pocket universe, and it's easily ignorable.
Yeah, we saw this little video on the history, and I have to admit, Rob Zombie went out of his way to make the universe extra crapsacky.
Yeah.
And he made basically everybody in there all horrible, ugly people.
Everybody.
Yeah, and that bothers me because it's one of the reasons I don't like Journey to the Center of the TARDIS. Is because everybody's a fucking horrible person.
Yep. Basically. And that's just why I'm like, that's its own little pocket universe. If you're into that, good for you. That's not my main Halloween. I'll have them just to have the collection, but that's about it. I'll spend about $1 each to get those DVDs, and I have.
There's a reason why I haven't bothered yet to watch Rob Zombie Halloween 2.
Like I said, I got that for like $1 or $2 at a rummage sale.
It's like like Friday 5.
Anyway,
it's not the real thing.
Let's move this on because we have a section before we get to our summary still.
Ooh.
And that's to rehash the elements of Doctor Who that we started last week because
yes.
Bill wasn't here.
So I'll be as
Tim
quick as
wasn't
I
here
can.
for that either.
Yeah, be as quick as possible.
Oh, okay. So
the first section that we're going to talk about is first of all, let's redo the stuff from the first episode, the new screwdriver. Bill and Tim, your opinions. Bill first, and then Tim.
I don't think it's anything special, and I prefer the one from the previous season that we barely saw.
Yes.
But I don't really hate it either. I think it's as good as the classic screwdrivers, just neither one's my favorite.
Okay. And then Tim?
I think the design of this screwdriver has shifted away far enough that to the uninitiated, you wouldn't recognize that it's supposed to be a screwdriver. Whereas with the previous Doctors, like especially 10 and 11s, you can, it sort of like has that feel.
More so than the classic ones, I think.
Yeah, the freaking classic one looked like a tire pressure gauge. It really did.
It's a little triangular bit on the outside, isn't it?
All right, so
yeah.
Jodie's new costume. Your opinions, Bill, and then Tim.
It's all right. It's
you can break it down into its components too, if you.
Okay. I mean, I put it on par with the Fifth Doctor's outfit, and it's iconic. It's memorable. You can't mistake it as anything other than the Doctor. It does, it doesn't have that flair to the point where I'd be like, I'd love to wear that, but.
It's funny you should mention that Aaron got the coat at Hot Topic.
Oh, okay. It's also, I mean, that's not the kind of color scheme that pops out to me anyway. Like I'm a darker clothing person.
Tom Baker had a coat more or less that color, but his was a London fog.
Anyways, Tim, unless you have more, Bill?
No, I'm done.
Okay,
Tim?
This outfit seems like it's tailor-made for dashing about frantically.
Kinda.
It is.
I especially like the long coat with the shorter pants, not shorts, but
capris.
Yeah, the capris.
Honestly, I can't stand the pants, but that's me. I don't know. I think I just have issues with short pants. They just bother me.
Word.
My mother used to wear them. I hated them.
It's the covered calves but bare ankles. It's weird.
Yeah, that's what bothers me.
I think that Jodie Whittaker is rocking it.
All right. So then we'll get to the elements from the Ghost Monument, the new theme. Or that were introduced in the Ghost Monument, I should say. The new theme, which we see. And mind you, theme also includes opening.
Yeah, the music is similar enough to previous ones where I don't really have a special comment. It felt very much like the Murray Gold original few themes. I'm sure there are differences, but I haven't really sat down and dissected them. They just felt like it had a similar feel to me. I really like the new opening sequence, especially the thumbnail that appears on the videos with the Doctor Who logo, and I think that actually is the best I've seen with that new logo. It just looks great.
And Tim?
The new arrangement of the theme seems very heavier than previous themes. Like more bearing down on you, which I think is interesting because this so far Jodie Whittaker's Doctor seems to be more light, so it's like a good.
Interesting, yeah.
What the theme actually reminds me of, at least feel wise, is the Paul McGann Big Finish theme. That kind of that dark heavy feel.
Okay.
So, and I don't know about anyone else, but I am really digging the new title graphics.
Yeah.
Because the first time I saw it, I thought to myself, this is what a three-dimensional modern technology rendition of the original.
Yeah, I brought that up last week.
Yeah.
Very good. Title themes would be like the waving lines.
That makes sense. Some of that seemed a bit weird to me. Like I was like, it's aesthetically interesting, but I wasn't sure why they made that decision. But now that you say that, it makes perfect sense.
It does. It really feels like a modern modern color version of the stuff that you saw back in the 60s.
Mm.
Right, and that takes us to New TARDIS. And we're talking largely about the interior.
Yes.
In the very beginning, I thought it was really weird because like they were walking a while and you still didn't see the console. So it was like, what is this? Another like Eighth Doctor where it's like a mansion or whatever. But once they got to the console, it just kind of clicked, and I was like, everything seemed to fit for me.
Mm,
So from what I've seen of it, I like it.
all right.
See, I was more on Bill's side on this.
Yeah, and I absolutely hate it, but I feel they kind of backslid on the design going.
I think there's
towards
some
the
issues,
art.
but I like it. But anyway, was
That
that
and,
it?
that and it's too dark.
Was that it, Bill?
And then
Yeah.
Tim. Yeah,
Yeah, that was it for me.
Tim?
Yeah. I think this console is like a lot more open space, which I think is a good opportunity to like move around in. On the other hand,
sort of.
I do miss the old console that had the levels.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could play around like
Matt
with
Smith's?
going up and down the stairs.
Well, late Matt Smith, Peter Capaldi.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so you don't just? I mean, okay, so you
Multiple levels, so you walk on around the outside. Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you could do stuff in there that, yeah. It
Can
gave
I have
different
tea and have a
filming
chalkboard and maybe a little bit of the library.
It
Right.
gave more filming opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which actually would be really
Mhm.
helpful with such a large cast.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also getting a very early 70s, like sort of Sid and Marty Krofft type show vibe from this with the design.
I kind of get more of a Superman the movie Krypton vibe,
Yeah, I agree with Matt on that.
which it's still 70s, so it's not too far off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I do like that, but still I miss the levels.
I miss
Mhm.
I miss the entire old TARDIS set. I really do.
I did like the biscuit dispenser.
And I put that on the
Biscuits.
list of stupid stuff, as well as the little holographic police box and the freaking like 40s era microphone.
We'll see if those come to be anything useful. They might be Chekhov's guns. We don't know. We'll see.
All right, so now finally we move on to the episode after an hour, almost 15. All right, who wants to do the episode summary?
I believe Bill typed it up, didn't you?
No.
Oh, I thought that was what you were hinting at before. Okay.
I would like to put myself away from it because I have this cold that is now bugging my nose.
Who did it last week?
I think it was me, actually.
So actually, then you're put away anyways.
Yeah, because it was me, then Randy.
So those
Matt,
two are
Tim, or
out.
Bill?
So it's me, me, Tim, or Bill. Bill doesn't want to do it because he doesn't have it written up, I assume.
Really needs to learn to do it off the cuff like the rest of us.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
Because you all like linear time. Yeah, my brain gets farther away from linear time. the
Oh,
older
says
I
it's
get, it
linear.
seems.
I
More
just
like a big
remember it
ball.
better.
This week especially, I
yeah.
feel like I'm in the Divergent universe.
So between me and Tim, then you want me to go, Tim?
Sure, you go, then I'll go next week.
Okay.
I'll hold you to that.
Okay.
We'll remember this. All right, I have my stopwatch here. Unless someone else wants to time me too.
I'm planning on it. My for whatever reason, Google's not helping me today.
Google not helpful.
Yeah, it's spinning and not going in. Okay, there we go. All right, for whatever. All right, you ready, Matt?
Ready?
In 3, 2, 1, go.
All right. We kick things off with the TARDIS landing, the Doctor poking her head out for a moment and then going right back inside again, apparently annoyed that they keep landing more or less in the same area. As the doctor's getting ready to take off, she finally notices that there's a strange reading on one of her gauges and sees that there's a... I forget what the energy was again, but it's the same time-traveling energy that the TARDIS releases when it moves from place to
Artron
place.
energy.
Archron. So...
Artron.
Artron.
Correct.
So detecting the Artron energy, she finally decides, oh, maybe we should actually step out and have a look-see, and proceeds out with the rest of the companions. While they're gone, a strange man in a leather jacket does show up and seems to first try to get someone to open the door, then tries to shoot it only to realize that it's protected. And gives up and proceeds to try and find out where the people who were inside the time machine went to. Meanwhile, the others find out that they are in, I believe it was the 1950s? I forget the exact date again.
1955.
Yeah, they figure out that in 1955, and they slowly gather more and more bits of the date as they go along, and they figure out it's just before the Rosa Parks incident. And as a matter of fact, literally bump into her in the streets. They almost fumble and let out why they are aware of her, and proceed to try and keep it all together. But this is also after having just had one of the companions pick up a handkerchief for a woman who dropped it, only to have him get smacked across the face because he was a black guy. And the woman's husband starts yelling at him for obvious racial reasons. They give it up. The Rosa Parks tries to calm things down. They all separate different ways. They continue to try and figure out what's going on and why this guy with the Artron energy is trying to mess around with things. To which the doctor and companions finally do run into him and are actually given chase as he shoots a weapon at them. The doctor manages to figure out that it's a displacer weapon, and it essentially will send someone either to the to another time frame, whether it's the future or the past. And instead of just actually killing people, and she figures out a few more details apparently from afar. He has a tattoo on his wrist that is from a prison. Apparently, he has a chip in his head that her Sonic managed to pick up that allows him to not be able to kill people, and hence the weapon that doesn't actually kill people but sends them to a different time zone. And that he apparently is a huge bigoted racist and is trying to undo everything that Rosa Parks' incident has actually done for the future. So he goes about trying to prevent it from happening, even if the doctor and companions are going to get in the way. They managed to dodge a police officer that was sent after some of the companions because of the strange things that they had done earlier that day. They finally get a plan together to watch Rosa, as well as trying to keep an eye on the bus driver and undo anything that might be trying to stop him from being at that bus and being at that stop, and having enough people on that bus to make the incident continue to happen, as it had previously had done in the original timeline. They barely get the skin of their teeth get the bus to the bus driver. They barely get him back on his route. They just managed to uncancel the bus stations and send everything back on its track, and also send the guy apparently into the distant past, where he'll be harmless because now he no longer has any of his gear, including his particular method of time travel. And because the TARDIS crew are on the bus, there's just enough people on there to force the incident with Rosa Parks to happen. While they don't really want to be a part of this, they have no choice but to be a part of the events that happen here. And she is taken by police and taken to prison. The doctor then gives them a brushing up lesson on what happened to her, how things turned out for her, and how what she has done affected even the universe at large, including the naming of an asteroid. And I believe that's about it.
All right. You did it in 4 minutes and 39 seconds.
I got 440, so it's pretty close.
Yeah, it was 4:39:66 when I stopped it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, like I'm a split second ahead of you then. Very close.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Ooh, I forgot to shuffle the names today. I'm a bad boy. Well, I'm sick. I'm sick, so we're just gonna
Randy,
go the same.
you're one sick pup.
So we're just gonna go the same order as last week because I'm too lazy to change it.
Does that mean that I don't go?
No, it means you go first.
Haha.
Fuck. Okay. So what I liked about the episode? Oh God, that's I'll say I really liked the edutainment aspect of it. They obviously dramatized some things, but as far as I know, most of it was fairly accurate. At the very least, it's something that kids watching the show can definitely learn from, which is great. A great way of harkening back to the Lucarati era of historicals, and I think that was a job well done.
All right, Matt.
Kind of on the same footnote, but not the exact same thing with Bill, is that I feel like a lot of things out there shy away from how bad things were back in the day, and this particular episode does not shy away from it. As a matter of fact, they make it a valid point that they need to be worried about that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And
They
that leads literally to our characters hiding behind a building in a pile of dirt at one point.
And bring it up how, while it's not as bad, it's still pretty bad. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Thomas.
Yeah, I pretty much have to tag on to Matt's because that was as well. I like the whole how they handled the racist 50s, because I can admit, like, this is Doctor Who. The closest we've had two black companions before where the most we got was a don't you think we'll run into a bit of a problem because I'm not white.
The last episode set on the frozen Thames, I think, was the closest we've gotten to this from a white writer.
Yeah, for a long while now, yeah.
Yeah, and like with Martha, it was like a one-off mention, but then she never actually ran into any problems.
Yeah, I think she mentioned it in the
except
Shakespeare
they
Code,
kept making her be they kept making her be the doctor's servant.
Which she got annoyed and rolled her eyes frequently at.
Yeah, actually, we did hit some of this in Human Nature.
A little bit, yeah. A little bit in Human Nature, in particular, as well.
Not to this degree, but
not
it was
not
there.
to the degree, but they did hammer on it.
Yeah, this is a time where they just went because like as soon as Ryan gets slapped across, like hit across the face, you're like, okay, they are not.
They are not holding punches.
They could have gone, for a family show, this is
even like
about as far as they'll probably would have got away with.
Shoot, they went as far as saying you'll be wearing a noose for a scarf.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In fact, the one thing I did notice that they did omit from this is nobody dropped the N-bomb.
Yeah, that would have been the one thing, and I can understand why they want to be careful about that nowadays still.
Especially airing on... I don't know if ITV would have gotten away with it, but definitely not BBC.
Yeah, it was the one thing I noticed that was not historically accurate, because that word would have been used in
that would have been used like about every other line from anyone in that time frame. Yeah.
Yeah, 1950s Deep South. Oh hell yes, it would have been used.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a family show, so it's easy enough.
I'm sure there's some choice words they would have used instead of Mexican as well.
Oh, probably as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I can think of at least 3. And this is because again, I grew up in San Diego, so there's a large Mexican community there, and some of those words are still used today by some of the more rural members of society.
Rural with quotation marks.
Yeah. In fact, if you think about nearly every ethnic minority, there is a racial slur you can use that I can think of, because I've probably heard them all. because I grew up in many rural neighborhoods. God damn it. All right.
Anywho,
Yes.
Anywho.
Tim, we are up to you. What you liked about the episode?
I really liked Yaz in this episode. I think it finally got this gave her a more chance to be in the spotlight a little bit more than in previous episodes. Like there was still a focus on the whole Ryan Graham relationship, which I think was also developed even more nicely. But I liked Yaz's, especially her interactions with Rosa Parks herself.
Mm-hmm. And of course, it's enough that we know that the next episode's going to be Yaz-centric. So.
supposedly.
All right. As for me, I really liked Vivette Robinson and her portrayal of Rosa Parks. I thought she did a great job.
Yeah.
Her accent was pretty much on the money, and I loved the wit of her character. It just fit very well.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about what we dislike. Bill.
So I guess it's on me. So I'm going to go with the villain of the episode.
God damn it!
He seemed kind of weak. I mean, he was clever, but he was fairly easily.
He's a fucking moron.
I mean, like he was a step ahead of them, is why I say he was clever. But he definitely was easily dealt with. And more to the point, the fact that he was just kind of anachronistic in the sense that, I mean, he's supposed to be from the future. Racists from 2018 know not to use the blatant racist language that the blatant racist ideas that he did. They know to veil those ideas and make them seem more palatable or seem more appealing. And then him being from the future and still not having that skill that people learned back in the Nixon era just seemed really weird to me.
Well, not only that, I'm actually going to jump the queue here and tag on to Bill's. I didn't like him because he's a fucking moron. Okay, so he's obviously from like the 70th century or something like that. Based on where his tech was
somewhere
from.
around River Song's time period, yeah.
Somewhere in there. And he decides, oh well, things are all against me here, and it's all because of them. I'm going to go back and completely erase 2/3 of human history for this. Never minding what the fucking butterfly effect means that I probably wouldn't have been born.
Right.
Which means I couldn't go back in time to change this, which means I cause a fucking temporal paradox.
Which means I just wipe myself off the face of the map. I'm a genius. Whoosh.
Which is why the Artron police showed up.
Right. But he's dumb. He didn't think of this.
Yeah.
He's doing this blindly and all this, and he's doing it. He's basically a moron.
Yeah.
And it just bothered me.
I mean, that might have been intentional in the sense that, Ku's supposed to be,
and
emulating.
And it's assuming that the 70th century would know who Rosa Parks is.
Yeah.
We know it because it happened, 70 years ago. Name somebody who was alive other than Emperor Nero in 400 AD. Anybody?
I think the idea is
Julia Agrippina.
I think the idea is that she's known as the Spartacus. You know what
Kinda.
I mean? Yeah.
At the same time, though, that means that all of human records survive intact for 5,000 years.
Well, our records are now going digital, so.
Yes, and what happens when there's a massive computer crash?
Well, hopefully it's backed up in more than one place. If it's not, then it's only your fault. Points at the guy who dropped it.
I mean, we go through how many? I mean, let's see. We've had societies collapse 4, 5, 6 times in human history, at least. and you think about, the methods that we've had on storing stuff, and it's a little bit hubristic to think that we're not going to have a society collapse sometime in the future. I often wonder if it's going to be sooner rather than later. But
we know that the UK survives long enough to get on a spaceship.
Yes. But
yes, but how many times has that been rewritten in Doctor Who, Bill?
Yeah.
We also know that in the far future,
I think that's more logic than we can expect from.
We also know that in the far future, there's a massive solar flare that causes almost all of life to be wiped out on Earth, and mankind to hide in a freaking space station, where most of them are eaten by basically giant space dragonflies.
I would say space caterpillars, but more or less the same thought.
It's blanking on me what you're specifically.
It's the Ark in Space.
Ark in Space with Tom Baker.
Mm-hmm.
Where they were attacked by bubble wrap.
Yeah, see, I was thinking that as one of many Ark ships, not as.
We know in the Doctor Who universe, in about 30 years' time, the Daleks invade and basically wreck society for, to basically try to turn the Earth into a giant rocket ship. So, yes.
Actually, hasn't that been written out of continuity already? I forget.
Unknown.
Yeah,
unknown. We'll have to see. Yeah. We'll have to see if the writers then remember that's supposed to happen.
Part of the thing with the Time War is that literally any Dalek story is both canon and non-canon at the same time.
Yeah.
That's an issue of time.
I had thought everything prior to Genesis of the Daleks had been wiped out, but then we got Asylum of the Daleks and had refugees from Dalek encounters in the Doctor from like the Third Doctor era and earlier. So I'm like, no, they're still there. Fuck.
It is remembered.
But so we know that Earth society collapses multiple times in Earth's future in the Doctor Who universe. To think that our records would survive that intact is hubristic. It honestly
We'd have to see how things are done.
One thing for the Storm Cage era, I feel like once the Time Agency is created, they probably started fixing some of those records. Because people could actually go back and go to the library.
Speaking of the Time Agency, why weren't they all over this shit too? known prisoner gets a hold of one of these. Are
the Time Agency known for competence?
Not
not
really.
An impression I ever got.
That's never the impression I got either. And Captain Jack seemed to be the most competent they had.
Well, he was a rogue.
And he
Time
quit
agent.
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that should tell you something.
To be honest, we haven't met many Time agents.
No.
We've met like a grand total of 2 or 3.
I'm going to put them up there somewhere along the less advanced CIA until I have reason to think otherwise.
Well, we know why the Time Lords weren't all over this, because they're all hiding at the end of time.
Currently.
Because they're now villainized and everything. My question becomes, how did he
the
automatically
TARDIS
deduce that was a TARDIS?
He didn't. I think he asked after the Doctor mentioned Artron energy. He's like, I think it kind of like clicked. He's like, "What are you, the Artron police?" He's like, "Oh shit, yeah. You might be."
Yeah, he did seem like curious whether it was a TARDIS or not, because he.
He never called it TARDIS by name, and I don't think he called it out.
Yes,
by that.
he called it a TARDIS by name.
He asked if it was a TARDIS, and she said, "What if it maybe?"
What if it was? And he's like, "That'd be very valuable."
So
does that mean that there's a black market commodity and Time Lord tech going on in the universe?
Wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, as far as everyone knows, they're extinct, so that would.
If they're not extinct, they're hiding. So yeah, their technology would be super powerful, super rare, and be super expensive and wanted on the black market. Yeah.
For all we know, the Time Agency is participating in the Great Time War right now.
I doubt it.
Doubt it, but they could be doing something anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Or at the very least, like anybody with whose memory wasn't wiped of the Time War would have found TARDIS husks and
You know,
stole them.
there was a time where only a Time Lord could fly a TARDIS. Now it seems like every Tom, Dick, and Harry can pilot one.
It definitely fluctuates.
It depends.
Big Finish, who are sticklers for that sort of thing, it depends on the mood of the story.
That rule started to get broken for sure by the Fifth Doctor, anyways.
Anyway, let's move on to what we disliked. Matt, you were next.
Since I was technically after Bill, I also have to kind of stick onto this thing too. But my big stickler with him was not even the other points, but the big ending point for him was that he was so easy to get rid of.
Yeah.
The main villain. Literally, our one gun-ho kid of the group just literally pulls out his own laser weapon and goes, "Yeah, tweet this all the way back to the distant past. Bye." Zoop.
Actually, he zapped with his own displacement beam.
Yeah.
That's what I said. Is that he had the guy's gun and just went, "Yeah, tweet this all the way back to the distant past. Bye." Boom. And we fixed everything.
And he just stands there while it happens.
Yeah.
I mean, I looked at him. He could have been a photo still at that point.
Just about. Lamest
didn't
villain.
React at all.
Lamest villain end ever.
All right, Thomas.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to jump onto this as well. And the thing that came to mind for me was after watching Whovians, and they showed like, well, here's other people who were fucking around with time who are villains, and they bring up the meddling monk, and I'm like, oh my god, this guy is like the dollar store meddling monk. He's like a shitty
when even the meddling
meddling
monk makes you look bad.
Yeah. Like, and at least the meddling monk was just like, he was fucking around with time because he could profit from it.
At least the meddling monk
like...
had an academy education.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, if you're the ultimate racist bastard from the future, Rosa Parks isn't where I would frickin' start. I'd start with Lincoln.
Yeah. That'd be a place to start. There's a lot worse damage you could do if you went further back.
You can go a lot further back and deal with this. You could deal with this a lot earlier. Mind you, the Doctor would get really pissed if you stopped if you messed with Abe Lincoln.
At this point in the future, you know, they might have been taught that the war wasn't about slavery, so he might not have thought that Lincoln would make a difference.
I don't know.
Well, since this is a British show, you could go back to when William Wilberforce led the campaign to end the slave trade.
There's still a lot of other places where he could have gone and gone, yeah, we're not going to stop this.
You wanted the whole thing out of the equation. You could have stopped the initial slave trade in the first place. Had them think Africa was some kind of cursed continent and never go there. I mean, you know, there's the fact that the villain's like, yeah, it all starts here. No, it doesn't.
Bad guy tries to make white people supreme, accidentally creates Wakanda by dropping off future technology and a first
I love it. Bad guy tries to create uber white society, accidentally drops a ton of vibranium on an African country.
Whoopsie!
Be a bomb.
Looks like someone dropped another tin can out of the airplane again.
Well, now I know if I ever get a job writing for Marvel Comics, you realize that is going to be in the story. Oh, all right. Tim, you also on this bandwagon?
Actually, no.
Ooh.
Somebody got off the bus.
All right. So what is it that you disliked about the episode Serial in general?
In general, I disliked the idea that it seems to be perpetuating the myth that this was a spontaneous act by Rosa Parks that set off the entire civil rights movement.
I think it leaves it ambiguous, to be honest, because like they clearly had a meeting the night before. They just don't tell you
What
they
happened
talked
there?
about.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's the idea that
It doesn't do anything to
like,
correct the myth. Definitely,
yeah,
I agree with you
like
there.
the civil rights movement was already underway, and it was happening.
And it wasn't.
Even if Rosa Parks hadn't said,
And
I'm
it
not.
wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't just Rosa Parks that started this too. There had been a similar incident that had happened.
Yeah.
I think, what was it, about 6 to 8 months earlier?
Something like that.
Apparently there had been two.
Mm-hmm.
Two separate ones.
Rosa Parks fit the whole respectability politics of the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm not belittling what Rosa Parks stands for or what she did, I'm just saying, there's more to the story
that
than
she was
just
a member
her.
of a team and not just Superman.
Yeah.
And again, they seem to hint at that, but they don't like deliberately go in there.
And really, Rosa Parks was the instigator. The one that actually started the protest that got things changed was actually Martin Luther King. And a couple of other people that were on that same community. E.D. Nixon. They all basically started the whole bus boycott after Rosa Parks. And of course, Martin Luther King is a legend in his own right as well.
Yep.
Excuse me. All right.
So I think that takes care of our bad part of the show.
Favorite scene.
So yeah, favorite scene, Bill.
I think I'm going to have to. Actually, and this is, okay, knowing that other scenes are going to be brought up by other people, but this is one that really stood out to me during watching it. Just the whole part where they're talking about Stormgate and the Vortex Manipulator and everything, and I was just like, it's a small thing, but at the same time, I'm that kind of nerd that I like that even though this season is doing its own thing, it's still acknowledging the past 10 years of history of the show.
Yes, it was actually was acknowledging
Stormgates from Series 5.
Yep, they're actually acknowledging Moffat continuity and RTD continuity.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, that's good. So we know that Chibnall hasn't thrown everything out.
Yeah.
All right, Matt.
Oh gosh. I want to do other scenes, but I guess I'm gonna go with the one that just comes to mind so easily is the final scenes on the bus.
Okay.
It's just like how the others, like the rest of the TARDIS crew, just don't want to be involved with this. Like we got it done, right? No, we need to actually stay so this horrible thing can happen, so that the future can be better.
Yeah.
It's not even just that they're done, it's that this is a really uncomfortable thing to do, and it goes against every bone in the Doctor's body not to get involved.
But at the same time, she has to if things are actually going to come up for the better.
I actually think that's the only reason that works, because, everything modern days we're talking about, don't be a bystander. If you see something and you have that power, intervene.
And this is the only way they can intervene is to make sure that history continues the way it should.
And, and I think the only reason the Doctor could hold that back was the fact that nobody died.
Right.
No one got harmed.
Yeah. Think about, this is, in a way, it's very similar to Fires of Pompeii, where Tennant knew what was going to happen and was, almost tearing his hair out because he couldn't do anything. He wanted to do everything, but he knew he couldn't.
So he picked the smallest, unsuspecting people that he could, and the people that he got to know the most at that point, essentially. And just you for it, come on.
But here at least
you won't break time.
Here at least nobody died.
This one,
Yeah.
no one died, and that's probably the one reason the Doctor could walk away from this one. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's like we need a fixed time, and as much as I want to do something about this, something needs to actually not be done to stop
Mhm.
this.
Mm.
All right. So, Thomas, how about you?
Mine was gonna be that one as well, but thankfully I had a backup because I was like, oh, if I'm not first, I might as well try to think
It's a big
something
one. I
else.
couldn't say no.
Yeah. So my backup is actually the moment where the Doctor first tells them when they are, and Graham's reaction being like, "Oh, could we see Elvis?" And the Doctor being all, "Oh yeah, he should be in New York at the moment, but it's like I could give him a call. If you got Elvis's phone number, don't tell anyone I gave him a phone." Just like that immediate, like I love how Jodie Whittaker plays that. It's like she's almost seems like a kid that got caught with something that they shouldn't have, and she's like, "Oh, please don't."
It was a Matt Smith moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Tim, and it was probably Matt Smith
Mhm.
that gave it to him.
Probably.
Tim, your favorite scene?
My favorite scene is, we're here to sell a new invention. It's a phone with a camera that also has a calendar on it and
plays music, and yeah.
plays music, and sounds ridiculous. Like, my name is Steve Jobs.
Just pulling it, just complete and total ass pull, and yeah.
You can just see the entire time the Doctor just wants to burden, but she can't. Just
Are you
like,
sassing me? Steve Jobs would never sass anyone.
All right. So my favorite scene is going to be a colliery off of Thomas's, and that is the congratulations, you've won our contest of the century.
oh,
My
And
wife
at the-
loves Sinatra.
Yes, and at the end of it, him going, well, thank goodness Elvis gave that phone to Frank, which I told him never, ever to do. So, because that just brought the mental image of Elvis and Frank talking together in my mind.
And then passing on this phone with this strange person attached to it. And we need to make a plea bargain here, Sinatra.
I'm imagining how weird it would be if I don't know if Sinatra in this scenario ever met the Doctor, but if Elvis ever described the Doctor, the person that called would not fit that description.
Nope, not at this point.
And the thing is, this is 1950s Elvis, which is, I'm trying to imagine where 1950s Elvis would have met Frank Sinatra. 1970s Elvis, yes. Or
Well,
at least,
Elvis was in New York. I'm assuming Sinatra performed in New York.
Yeah, I know, but both of them were very known for being in Vegas.
So apparently, Frank Sinatra threw Elvis a party after Elvis finished his tour in the army.
That's a possibility then.
Yeah.
Sort of like a welcome home Elvis thing.
But, I'm just imagining Elvis, well, here you go, Frank. Keep it under your hat. Just,
oh, wow,
God.
Frank.
You tell him, buddy. You didn't get from me.
I just looked it up and saw that Frank Sinatra was still alive in the 90s. I thought he was like a beginning of the century person.
No.
Like not beginning, but like first half.
No, he was big in the 50s, 60s.
The other funny thing about the Elvis thing is apparently that was like a thing where he would trade people's shit for like stuff that random shit that he wanted.
So maybe he bargained Sinatra with this phone attached to this alien person.
All right, Frank. I'll give you this phone with plays music and can talk to this person called the Doctor if you give me that peanut butter and banana sandwich right there. Thank you very much.
Oh, and can I get that mansion from my mama? I have a sassy cat visiting.
All right, so now our least favorite scene, and Bill.
I mean, there are definitely scenes where I would say, dislike, but you're meant to dislike them. So I can't really consider them least favorite. Like the
Yeah,
racism,
if there
obviously,
are
is very
scenes that are obviously
intentional.
meant to be there to
Uh,
drive the point home.
So I'm gonna go with, oh hey, you're the big bad of this episode, and I'm just one of the lackeys of the Doctor. I'm just gonna shoot you and never have to deal with you.
And once again, I'm going to have to jump the queue.
Because
I'm
this
going-
is
because-
technically mine too.
Because once again, that is my least favorite scene. But for different reasons.
We'll see. We'll see. Let Bill finish first, actually.
Yeah, go ahead and finish.
That was pretty much what I had to say about it.
Okay.
All right.
Ready.
So my thought here is the fact that this is a weapon the Doctor said she didn't like.
Mm-hmm.
That she, never ever should be used, and he just whips it out and uses it. I watched that. It's like, oh, if she finds out, he is going to be in so much trouble.
But why would she give it to him if not for him to do that?
It was obvious he
Why
was
would
continuing
she
the
have
monkey
given
whip
it
it.
Well, why would she have given it to him in the first place?
Right.
I thought
Well, I
he
think
said he
the
swiped it.
No,
Yeah,
she helped
he
him set.
swiped
She
it.
helped him set it up. She showed him how to change the settings.
Well, I think that was like absent-mindedly. Like she was just he was like trying to figure out
That
how.
thing right, yeah, she
like,
just basically
no, give it
went
here,
that thing right there. If you tweak it this way or that way, it goes to the further to the past or the future. And now
Yeah.
don't touch it, please.
While talking to the companion that she knows likes guns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a stupid solution, and
Look,
not.
Now that you say that, I'm wondering if it's going to get pulled out next episode, and she's going to get mad.
Yeah,
Actually, he explained to her right on the bus that what he did.
Yeah.
and she just nodded on it because
Basically.
that bothers me. That she would go off on how much she disliked that weapon and then encourage or at least condone its use. No,
she obviously doesn't
hypocritical.
like it, but at the same time, it saved her one of her companions and got rid of this
it's
menace.
hypocritical. Yeah.
But it's also at the same time, it's like it's gonna be kind of. I get the feeling it's gonna be one of those things where she's gonna have to go, okay, let's take the TARDIS, let's go find this guy and deal with him again, kind of deal. And it's like, why do we have
Probably,
to?
yeah.
Why do we have to? Let's just leave him there and let him rot wherever
He's gonna
rock
co-
hole he
He's
got
going to
dropped
come
into.
back as an ally of the what's it mafuckers.
Oh, some new villain
The
this
season
this
villain.
year, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe
We'll
maybe
see.
he gets dropped at the right place at the right time and allies himself with even more powerful baddies for the season. That's a possibility, I suppose. Yeah.
We'll see. It just bothered me.
There's a reason Chibnall has a co-writing credit, and that might be it.
Yeah, that might be it. That might be him setting up something for end season.
Okay, and what about you, Matt? Why didn't you like the scene?
Just such a weak sauce moment of them bantering, and the guy doesn't even bother. As we've mentioned before, the guy doesn't bother to dodge. He doesn't bother to move. He doesn't even bother to look upset of the fact that he's obviously about to just lose.
All
Just
right.
such a knuckle-dragging Neanderthal of a villain.
All right, Thomas, you in on this hate fest too?
Yeah, but with me, I guess it just felt kind of anticlimactic. But at the same time, I mean, you kind of have to end on the bus scene. So, like, doing the bus scene and then coming back to deal with the villain would have been a bit So I can kind of get, like, incapacitating him, but in this specific way is like, well, that's a problem for future us.
Basically.
Actually, one of the issues I had earlier actually is part of that scene too. That whole what was it? What did he say? Your people or people like you? That was that scene, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's where
Yeah.
it brought up again. Yeah.
Yeah.
That line was more written so that they could point and dance. Hey, I'm a racist. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If it hadn't been obvious before, they wanted to make sure it was absolutely blatantly obvious.
Sledgehammer.
Yep. All right, Tim, how about you?
Okay, I'm gonna have a different scene, but this is really a minor now that I think about it, it's just a minor nitpick. The scene at the beginning where Ryan gets slapped by that guy. There's nothing wrong with this scene except for the fact that it seems to be that it's not until that moment that they all realize that walking around in 1950s Alabama could be problematic for the
walking
them.
around in 1950s Alabama with a black man and a Pakistani woman was going to cause issues. Yeah, I thought the doctor would have figured that out and probably had words of caution earlier.
But apparently not.
See, if Ryan's Grand was around, she would have had a warning.
Yeah, it would have been the doctor looking at her companions going, and we're in the deep south in the 1950s. Oh, this is not good. Anybody want to make a trip to 1980s New York instead?
I chalk it up to them being British because, like, a lot of races talked about differently there to the point where they I don't know realize the same things are an issue.
You got to remember that David Tennant, I think, no, it was Chris Eccleston made cracks about the Deep South earlier, I think in End of the World. So the Deep South is even a thing in England.
Well, yeah, it seemed to be that Ryan was the only one who was a bit clueless compared to everyone else.
Well, that's kind of almost Ryan's character at this point, isn't it? A little bit.
Yeah, he is the Mickey.
He's the one that has to learn the hard way. Normally,
he's the Mickey.
It's not necessarily a Mickey. He had a couple Mickey moments, but I'm praying they pull away from that.
I'm hoping so too. Not seeing it yet, but yeah.
Well, again, it wasn't like he went totally Mickey on this one, although he using that gun as an eyebrow twitcher. And the doctor not reprimanding him for it, at least a little bit, is also another eyebrow twitcher.
All right, let's bring this to a close. Final thoughts. Bill?
All right. So I think all of my extra comments were pretty much made. It's a groundbreaking episode, and I think they did a pretty good job. I was the kind of weak villain. Kind of wish that they had done what Classic Who would have done and make part of the story rather than the very end of it and ending on that little epilogue scene. Time, it's it's a single episode story where we've had this conversation dozens of times by now. They're not going to make it a two-parter just for that little bit, and they're not going to fuck up the entire episode structure just for that. So I understand that as well. And it didn't, not like we would have lost anything major anyway. But otherwise, very strong episode. I think we've said everything there is to say about it.
All right, Matt?
I like that they didn't pull too many punches. They pulled some of the heavier hitters a little bit because, let's face it, this is still for family entertainment, even if it is a learning experience for some people. I like that they didn't pull the punches too hard. They gave you enough, more so than some shows normally would, and just to make sure that the point was made. We got a pretty decent story for the most part. The only weak sauce part is a character that got erased almost as quickly as he could have been erased from the original script.
All right.
Other than that, pretty good acting, really good, what is it called? Location shooting. A lot of this was, by the looks of it. Really good location shots, really good, background set details, including vehicles and so forth. Just a lot of little methodical things that they did really well with this, otherwise.
Yeah, can you believe this was South Africa and not the Deep South?
Right.
And all those nice, lovely little 1950 cars.
I'm wondering if South Africa had a bunch of whites only signs lying around. And that's why they went part of their appeal.
Apartheid ended 30 years ago, Bill. I'm thinking those signs would be gone by now.
Maybe.
But otherwise, just a lot of really good detail and a lot of really good work done by people who knew what they wanted to get done, and at least they didn't overcross the line, but they definitely got their point across. And they didn't. I feel that they didn't defame anything badly with this particular episode, which could be a problem depending upon some of the past historicals we've done from Doctor Who.
All right, Thomas.
I really enjoyed this one. And I actually kind of feel like it could be argued this is probably the closest we'll get to a pure historical in New Who. Like I doubt we'll ever get like a pure historical in New Who. So yeah, this is probably the closest we'll
if we
get.
would have gotten one, this would have been it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, actually, we have another historical coming up in
right,
3
yeah,
episodes,
with,
Demons of the Punjab. I want to actually see what that is before we'll declare
Before we
the
claim
winner.
that, yeah.
yeah.
You think the demons would be
So
figured
at least, yeah, as of this episode, this is the closest
We've had in a
got
long time.
so far. Yeah.
Mhm.
To a pure historical. And honestly, despite that, I actually really liked it. Like, they handled it really well. I like the fact that, like, as was mentioned before, like, the Doctor has to just let this happen, despite the fact that it goes against everything the Doctor stands for, to allow something like this to happen. Because it's like, it's for once it's the Doctor. Yeah, it's like, in a way, it is kind of a bit, despite the villain really not being up to snuff with the meddling mug, this is kind of a similar concept where the idea is that the Doctor is actually trying to stop someone from fucking around with history, as opposed to being the one who's almost kind of fucking around with history a bit. I can actually say that the first time I watched this actually, the ending really hit me in the gut out of nowhere, which was, for me, I was like, I have like no emotional attachment to any of this because I'm not from the US at all. I knew jack shit about Rosa Parks before this, whatever. But yeah, like, something about how they played this, it actually really hit me in the gut emotionally.
or some combination.
And yeah, like this, I came very close to crying, which doesn't happen often for me with Doctor Who in general, and especially New Who. So yeah, like, I give it a lot of credit for that.
You're right where it needed to. Yeah.
All right, Tim.
Okay, so I can really forgive the weak villain because this episode wasn't really about the villain.
Yeah.
And, I did like how, like we said, it didn't shy away from the brutal history, and I think it went as far as it could go on a BBC family show. So I like that. I think Jodie Whittaker's evolution is progressing nicely, as well as the dynamic between the companions. I really loved the actress who played Rosa Parks. I thought she did a great performance. So overall, I think this was a good episode.
All right. So, all in all, this is a good episode. It does have its problems, especially with the writing of the main villain. But a lot of the scenery and the world around it was written very well. It held back as little as it could. And all the acting is superb, especially that of Rosa Parks. And I think the police officer that comes and inspects all had this very authentic feel to them. Some of the minor actors were unfortunately the standard British fare trying to do American accents and failing.
I assume,
no-
like
But
the bus
that's
driver.
to be expected. Yes.
There were no John Waynes, I think.
No, there was nobody doing the
They
John
did
Wayne.
John Wayne it, thankfully, yes.
But that was like they were taught how to do a Deep South accent for this,
And
but couldn't
some of
quite
them got it,
pull
but
it
not all
off.
of them could get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
But regardless, it's good. I really wish they could have done something to doctor up the main villain so he didn't feel so pointlessly stupid. Which does, in fact, that does drag it down a bit for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
The fact that he's still there though is just going to still be a minor negative to this episode.
and a couple of characterization writings for the main cast which bother me. All right, let's talk about ratings. Bill, you are first.
So, if the villain wasn't such a big part, I would go with the 5. But just because we had so much to say about him, I'm going to have to go with the 4.5.
All right, Matt.
Throwing this out there really quick, I just noticed in this picture, Joey Whitaker changed her shirt.
Which picture?
I just shared it in the chat, in the podcast chat.
Yeah. It's a different shirt, but the same
style.
The same stripe.
Yeah.
But as for score, I believe I'm in the same boat as Bill. This is a 4.5. If it wasn't for the use of a lackluster villain that was easily otherwise ignored, it could have gotten a 5. But he's still there, and it's just like, that one little red herring that ruined the rest of the good soup.
Okay. Thomas.
Well, this is going to be interesting because I actually liked this episode better than both of the previous two.
Ooh.
And I do not think that the villain is enough for me to justify dropping any mark I'm actually giving this.
You're giving it a 5?
Yep.
All right.
Okay. Tim?
I'm torn because, I've already given the last 2 episodes 5s.
Want me to flip a coin for you?
It's sure, why not?
All right, call it.
Heads. Heads it's 5, tails it's 4.5.
4.5.
All right.
Tails.
Well, I'm the highballer for this.
You're going to be a highballer for this one, yeah. It happens.
4.5 or 4. That villain really, the sheer stupidity of the villain really eats at me. Which is why he gets a lot of deductions, because he's basically stupid across the board.
Mm-hmm.
He does everything stupid. His plan is stupid. His initial execution is good, but then everything he does after that is stupid. And then he just stands there and gets whipped into the past. Stupid, stupid, stupid.
Your stupid minds. Stupid.
Oh. I'm going to lowball this and give this a 4.
Ouch.
Just because that guy just eats at me really hardcore.
So if I'm remembering these scores right, that gives us a 4.5.
4.5 average.
Yep.
Which
so basically me and Randy were the Bill and Tim for this week.
Wow.
It definitely could very easily have been a 5 episode, but for that one character.
For that one character who should have just been written out of it, it could have been almost perfect. But then they would have to come up with an excuse as to why time got altered.
All right, so that's going to take us...
Actually, what would have been better is if he just sat in the background and watched and didn't get directly involved with them, just kind of going, are they actually going to undo my plans? Kind of deal.
Or just giving him a better reason for what he was doing.
That too.
Or at least make him smarter about it. Like if he even just went with the whole my family became poor and it blamed the civil rights movement on that, and At
Well,
least
that is
would have been
that is
more
essentially what he
realistic.
was doing. I got put in jail. I
Yeah.
killed a bunch of people and put in jail, and I was set up for it. So it's all their fault. And yeah,
Well, sure. I kind of assumed that was already him, like trying to kill as many black people as he could at that time.
yeah. Well, it's basically something like that, but it's still kind of it's still a stupid plan to basically plan on what would probably wipe out your own existence.
Mm-hmm.
Also, with the way things are going, the fact that they're by the 70th century that races would have the same classification. Yeah.
Anyways,
I could keep going on.
yeah, you're starting to delve too deep.
Yeah, I can just say that initial part's enough to eat me enough. 4.5 makes Rosa come in at number 37
Not bad.
out of 266 reviewed. It is on par with The Woman Who Fell to Earth, The War Machines, Spare Parts, The Invasion, The Rebos Operation, Thin Ice, World Enough in Time, The Doctor Falls, Thousand Worlds Fight in Battle, Enlightenment, New Earth. A lot of these are familiar. I mentioned them all earlier.
They're, yeah, relatively solid.
It is better than Class, The Metaphysical Engine, or What Quill Did, The 11th Hour, Rise of the Cybermen, Age of Steel, Time Reaver, Partners in Crime, Time Warrior, etc., and not as good as Seeds of Death, Towns of Wang Chiang, The Ghost Monument, Invasion of Time. Ghost Monument came in at number 22, by the way, after resorting.
I believe I mentioned
Magician's Purchase, no, I said number 25 earlier.
Oh.
That wasn't an official number. That 22 is. Return of Dr. Mysterio, Bells of St. John. That's all we have to say about Rosa.
All right. Don't forget to follow us on Twitch and subscribe to us on YouTube. And you can also like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. If you want to support us, you can go to patreon.com/unearthlypodcast.
Next week, the Doctor and crew finally make it back to Sheffield, where they're facing giant killer spiders. All of my worst nightmares. Oh, please.
Giant spider invasion.
It's Arachnids in the UK. Written by Chris Chibnall and starring Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor, Toshin Cole as Ryan Sinclair, Mandeep Gill as Yasmin Khan, and Bradley Walsh as Graham O'Brien. See you next week.
Bye-bye.
With these
Can't
motherfucking
sleep, spiders will
arachnids
eat me.
in this motherfucking UK.